All right, another Union raid, number 11 now this time around. I was debating whether I was gonna do this guide or not because a lot of these bosses were kind of just repeats. So if you actually look at the previous guides, you will actually kind of see how I was talking about how to deal with all of these things. But I think because there's still some changes on the teams, some units, new units that we have, I think it's worth just talking about at least some of the new different teams that we have cooked up with. Let's start off with Sunbather. He is weak to iron, and the boss is just weak against like core damage. So assault rifle, machine gun, sniper rifle are really good, and the boss is simple, straightforward, just shoot. So the most ideal one though, however, if you have to really pick about it, is the Red Hood, Maxwell, Snow White. This team is probably the most used, I would say. Some people could use their other teams, right, like Scarlet and Modernia for the core shot, so that's another option. And then really this team is another just option if you don't have anything else, but it's not really necessary. Okay, so there's another team, and that was the shotgun team. I tested it. It's not as big of a damage as, say, for example, if you are using like Scarlet or Modernia. But you know, if for other people, like if they are running out of teams to use, like shotgun is something to consider that you could start using, because this boss doesn't have really anything particular special going on. There's still a lot of bullets that miss when you're using shotgun, so this is really not a good showcase of shotgun. But again, like for people that don't really have any other team, you could consider that. For Mace now though, however, this one it's essentially almost pretty much the same as the previous one. I would say just same teams pretty much, like Summer Anise, Scarlet, and the Electro teams. So you have Masked, Guillotine, and Scarlet, and then you can have Noise in it to kind of like safeguard Guillotine and Scarlet. Or if you choose to remove Guillotine, you put Summer Anise, and then maybe you don't have volume, then you can use Sakura and Noise as your both B1. So that's something to consider. Yeah, you know, not everyone will essentially gonna be using it. A lot of people would probably use this a lot more. You could use Quincy with Summer Anise and Scarlet, and Quincy will kind of keep Scarlet alive in that regards. The alternative is when you use 2B, because and then you have Guillotine and Scarlet, and because what happens is the boss has some skills that will target the highest attack, and 2B does kind of act as a sort of rod, so it's a little bit better of this one, example of this one. And you can use Quincy, and typically Quincy will buff 2B and Scarlet, and so Guillotine will actually not get healed. So that is something to also consider. But yeah, and then you just take cover whenever there's some obvious shots that the boss is throwing. You have enough time. But yeah, that's another team that you could do to min-max it. And then everything else is kind of staple standard. You can use the bunnies with Scarlet, Modernia, or Naga with Summer Anise and Scarlet. There's not the whole lot. The boss is weak against electric. Just shoot the core. Done, right? That's pretty much it. Now here's the thing, because this one is a little bit gonna be different, like starting on material H onwards, because material H is a little bit annoying on this. I was molding on it when I was doing things, but when you're using Red Hood, you're seeing that there's some shots that are like missing. It's so annoying. And Oh my god, it was a little bit frustrating to start using this. And another thing is, yes, you can keep targeting the core and you will do double the shot. So this is the ideal, because you want Red Hood and Maxwell. Red Hood will do some pierce against the boss, and when all the mobs and the turrets are dead, then you can do pierce shots. But you know, this random situation, for example, I could burst and then somehow Maxwell's burst did not do any pierce. It's weird. Some people have suggested they switch to a different character to control, so like, you know, you would switch to Litter and then let Maxwell do her burst automatically. I think some people have found success on that. They mentioned that, and then yeah, it's weird because like now I start doing core shots again, but then the mobs are respawning, so it's like I don't I'll be honest to you, I don't understand. It's so weird. So yeah, I would it frustrated the whole heck out of me. I was I was molding here. I think I saw a chat from Mr. Alters that, oh, if the boss is like moving around, you could still target in this, and yeah, it's not sync with the eyeball but instead like in the middle. So that might be something also you should try to just target the middle, not the eyeball but like the middle still. So you know, you guys might see some better results than I did, because well, I'm already done, so it's over now. Anyways, that's something to really talk about. Material H is weak against iron, so Snow White and Maxwell and Red Hood, and also to pierce, so those three also are the main thing. And then you can use Alice also if you want, that's like another unit. And if you really don't have any other thing, then like Scarlet, Modernia, other options that you can choose. So yeah, I think otherwise, Material H, your goal is to just destroy the turrets and mobs ASAP and then keep shooting in the middle. It's really buggy, and then there are some times where like the units stop shooting, and so some people have decided to start using also the Summer Anise team with Scarlet that some people found to be less molding, but obviously it's a waste of use because you could use this on Mother Whale or Mace, which are weak against electric, right? So that's something to consider if you, or maybe if you're stuck. Really, the whole thing about this Union Raid is a lot of them are basically staple. You have the Tia Naga, the bunnies, and then the Dorothy Privity or whatever Privity. Yeah, that's just how it is. You're just gonna be playing around. Some people could end up using the Snow White with Yulha and Miranda instead, and you are almost free to start using Novel now or Polly with Dala. That's something to consider as well. And oh yeah, and I forgot to note in here, Summer Helm is also a good consideration for that. So you can also use Summer Helm because it's Material H, it's electric and weak to iron, so that's something to consider. And you can replace Dala with that as well. Actually, I would even, never mind, I would actually prioritize that actually. All right, anyways, so that's the team that I would use for Material H. It's very standard, just go for Pierce. That's really the ideal part. Now let's start with the rebuild Stout, because this one, some people like are confused, like what exactly do they need to do here? And the simplest way to talk about it is you need Pierce. And usually by the time the second burst starts happening, he's gonna teleport. Yeah, there's a spawn here, and then he's gonna spawn ahead, and then if you don't destroy it fast enough, he's gonna spawn this shield, and the only way to kind of deal with it is to have a pierce unit like right there. So, and once you destroy the head, then the shield is gone. Now, there is a way, if you don't have a unit that is pierce for rebuild Stout. So you really need to burst ASAP on that one. Oh, right here. Right there. So if you destroy it fast enough, the boss will not spawn the shield. So there's some tight timing in it, and especially, you know, if you don't have any cooldown reductions, that's really just not gonna work out. The main thing is just destroy that head, that part that spawns, and then the rest of the fight is just as straightforward as just trying to survive it. Also choose to use Nihilister. Nihilister has Pierce. Red Hood, Alice, Maxwell. Snow White is also another good one, and you can time it. As you can see on that one, you can it's at the second burst, so you would burst with like Yulha first, and then the second time around you can burst with Snow White, and you can choose to wait until the 30-second mark when Yulha's buff is there if you want to. You can also use A2 or like Laplace. They all work. The AoE from A2 or Laplace also work, and Laplace has a burst that will pierce also, so that's another team that you can use as well. The Mother Whale. So let's talk about Mother Whale. I talked about it in pretty much like in-depth detail on like the mechanics on it. I'll put the link in the description. It's like 1900 in this Union Raid 7 guide. I talked about Mother Whale. Go ahead and check that out to kind of figure out how to deal with the Mother Whale. But I'll give it TLDR a little bit. It's basically destroy the core ASAP, and if you can destroy the core as soon as possible, the mobs that spawns will not get a defense buff if you destroy the core ASAP. If you didn't destroy the core ASAP and you don't have enough DPS, then the mobs will have a defense up that where basically it's essentially hit count dependent. Instead, they would have an absurdly high defense that you're just gonna deal 1 damage. However, their main HP will go down. If the DPS is not fast enough, you can use Modernia burst or other machine guns like Diesel, guillotine, things like that to do a lot of hit count against those mobs. And then the alternative to use is to use AoE units that will destroy the mobs as soon as possible. And you know, Scarlet, Haran, things like that. There are different types of AoE burst. It's either instantaneous or delayed, and I talked more about like what those things are. Just go ahead and check that thing out. Now, another thing that I would like to demonstrate is for this Mother Whale, and this is when you're using Dorothy, there's some good burst timings, assuming that you don't have enough DPS. So another trick also, let's talk about this. So another trick for attacking the core is look at the HP bar and target the HP bar. Typically you will hit the core if you're just targeting the HP bar or that. So people that are having trouble targeting the core, just target the HP bar. That is it. Now, here's the trick with Dorothy. Let's assume that you don't have a lot of DPS to destroy the core ASAP, and you can use the Dorothy team, and at around 246, use Dorothy burst, and then your AoE will also like destroy a lot of the bombs. So Dorothy burst, and then the Scarlet AoE. So at 246 though, so once you get that blue, that means you hit damage enough. Normally you would keep doing it, but this time, the good thing about it is at 246, you see that it instantly cleared the mobs. So 246, 247, I think it should be fine. I think 246, I was comfortable with it. And then, yeah, keep attacking and keep bursting, actually. I would say that, because the mobs are gonna constantly spawn. But as you can see right there, like there, Dorothy is just kind of doing the cleanup on that. So target the boss with it, and yeah, so there you go. Because with with how many the mobs are, the more that the boss will damage you. And if they don't really do damage, right there, he's just gonna tickle you when there's no mobs. So that is one thing that you can start strategizing. I want to talk about it because I look back at the VOD, I didn't talk about that Dorothy strategy. So yeah, anyways, that's basically all the teams. And if you're looking for other, this one is the old solo raid 1 guide for Mother Whale. There's a link, this team comps, there's this part, and it kind of showed and talk about like really the struggle in it. So this is for people that don't have like the new units, things like that. This is really back then, and we're struggling for solo raid challenge mode. So if you want to look at the different teams there, they're not very efficient because they're really old teams. And also, you know, as I showed you, there's like a lot more different ways to, main way is to really just DPS it. Now that also a lot of people are a lot more stronger, I kind of expect them to, the cord to not last any longer than that. So most people would probably be able to, at least like you know, a lot of the day one players are probably going to be able to kind of deal with it. Newer players, yeah, you might have to dig deep into the old strategies, or here's my suggestion: let the stronger people deal with it and wait for your turn on other bosses, because after Mother Whale it's going to be Sunbather again, and you know, it's just so much easier. That's my recommendation for dealing with this union raid, because it is pretty tough, if especially if you're a newer player.